Hello and welcome. I'm Saeed from StoryPlanet.net. Dive right into the essence of the most captivating books without reading them cover to cover. Whether you're on the go, at the gym, or just relaxing at home, we offer you a unique and enriching listening experience. Today, we are exploring the book, The Gulag Archipelago, 1918 to 1956, a creation by Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn. Published in 1973, The Gulag Archipelago is a detailed account of the Soviet labor camps known as gulags, active from 1918 to 1956. Drawing on his personal ordeal as a prisoner and numerous accounts from different sources, author Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn vividly describes the perpetual fear and misery within the gulags, highlighting the psychological and structural aspects of this state-run penal system. Before we delve into these revelations, it's interesting to note that Russian novelist Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn, 1918–2008, wrote books like One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, 1962, and Cancer Ward, 1968. He received the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1970. An outspoken opponent of the Soviet regime, he served a prison term from 1945 to 1953 for criticizing Josef Stalin. From 1974 onwards, he lived in exile for 20 years in West Germany and the United States. He returned to Russia in 1994 after the Soviet Union collapsed. With 9 key ideas to unveil, brace yourself for a deep dive into this captivating book. On StoryPlanet.net. To start, discover the harsh reality of life in Stalin's Gulag prisons. The Gulag Archipelago by Aleksandr Solzhenitsyn is acclaimed for shedding light on the atrocities of Stalin's regime through literary means, combining documentation and poetic expression. It portrays the prison camps as a metaphorical archipelago, illustrating the surreal yet harsh reality of life there. The book delves into the cruelty of the Gulag system, including the role of the organs, the severe punishments for minor offenses, and the near impossibility of escape. Key idea number 1. The archipelago originated with the October Revolution, expanded from Solovki prison, and became established after World War II. The Soviet Union had a network of forced labor camps known as the Gulag Archipelago, spread like islands throughout the country. Beginning in 1918 under Lenin, these camps were used to isolate class enemies. The first camp was on Solovetsky Islands, serving as a model for future camps. After World War II, the camps became a significant workforce for Soviet economic growth, as prisoners could be easily moved and did not require basic provisions. Key idea number 2. Getting to the archipelago involves being arrested by the organs. Russian individuals were sent to the Gulag Archipelago without being given reasons for their arrest. The organs, responsible for arrests, had quotas to meet and aimed to capture anyone seen as opposing the dictatorship of the proletariat. Arrests were made regardless of guilt or innocence, often with false charges or made-up crimes attributed to the individuals. Religious practitioners and independent thinkers were particularly targeted, along with those with small private businesses or possessing illegal items, such as radio receivers. Stalin required a certain number of arrests to be carried out, and those arrested were subjected to harsh sentences, especially religious offenders who were called tenors and received 10-year sentences. Key idea number 3. Interrogations in the Gulag involved violence and torture. Throughout Russia's history, the use of torture has fluctuated. Tsar Alexei Mikhailovich found torture useful, while Peter the Great viewed it as barbaric, and Catherine the Great prohibited it in the 18th century. However, in 20th century Russia under socialism, torture resurfaced with brutality. The Soviet authorities employed violent tactics, aiming not at investigation but at breaking down individuals to elicit false confessions. Psychological and physical torture methods were standard practice, defying the law. The communist ideology was used to justify these barbaric acts, targeting anyone perceived as a threat to the regime. Key idea number 4. Sealed steel ships sailed among the islands in the archipelago. The Gulag Archipelago in Russia used trains to transport prisoners to island ports. The sealed prisoner cars were overcrowded, lacked seating, and had guards watching over them. Loading was done at night to avoid public awareness. Prisoners were kept in constant terror through various means, including denial of water. Depending on the destination, prisoners could spend several days to weeks in these conditions. Key idea number 5. Natives of the archipelago endured a life marked by labor, hunger, and mortality. Upon arrival at the camp in the Gulag Archipelago, individuals became prisoners, shaping their identity for life. Daily life consisted of harsh labor from sunrise to sunset at various tasks like quarrying, mining, factory work, railroad construction, agriculture, and logging. Scant food rations were basic, and clothing was minimal, with inmates often wearing patchwork garments. Life in the Gulag was defined by starvation, deprivation, and resemblance to animal existence. Death was ever present, with a special brigade tasked with handling bodies and mass burials. Key idea number 6. The archipelago brought loyal communists, women, and children ashore. The Gulag Archipelago housed various groups including loyal communists, women who endured harassment, and children, including orphans and juveniles. Loyalty to the communist cause made life in the Gulag especially challenging for some, as they struggled to come to terms with their imprisonment. Women faced constant harassment, while children, including orphans and juveniles, were also present in the camps, some even earning long sentences for minor offenses. Key idea number 7. Prison camp labor was deemed useless as it only resulted in corrupted souls in the archipelago. The Gulag Archipelago was highly inefficient and unproductive in terms of producing valuable goods due to the poor quality of labor by prisoners lacking incentives and skills. Work was essentially pointless, with prisoners frequently making mistakes and producing substandard output. The primary outcome of the Gulag system was the destruction of human spirits, as survival instincts led to brutal competition among inmates. Escaping was nearly impossible due to harsh conditions and societal factors, leaving prisoners trapped in a brutal struggle for existence. Key idea number 8. Some people in the archipelago were dedicated to escaping, while others wanted to share their experiences living there. In the harsh Gulag camps, escape attempts were rare and dangerous. Escaped prisoners faced peril in the wilderness, with few surviving to tell their tales. Prisoners dedicated to escaping spent all their time preparing for the risky endeavor, knowing it could lead to death. Guards maintained strict control, with severe consequences for any perceived sympathy towards prisoners. Despite the challenges, some prisoners attempted to document their experiences, but few manuscripts survived due to the harsh conditions and mortality rates in the camps. Key idea number 9. Prisoners were released from the archipelago into exile, and with Stalin's death, the archipelago disappeared again. The text discusses the historical use of exile as a punishment, particularly in Russian history. It highlights the experiences of individuals like Leo Tolstoy and Vladimir Lenin who were exiled, with varying conditions and outcomes. It also touches on the internal exile that existed during Stalin's era and the eventual release of many prisoners after Stalin's death. The challenges faced by those reintegrating into society are also mentioned, as well as the hope for their stories to be told and truth to be exposed. In conclusion, the key message is about Stalin's cruel prison labor camps, known as the Gulag Archipelago, where countless innocent people endured torture, starvation, and exhausting work until Stalin's death. Please provide feedback to Remember Story Planet Net with the book title in the subject. Further suggested reading talks about inequality and the historical forces that have leveled societies. Thank you for listening to this summary. If you enjoyed this exploration, we invite you to discover other fascinating books on storyplanet.net. Don't wait any longer. A multitude of books, stories, and knowledge await you there. See you soon on storyplanet.net.